Hi, so I just came back from an amazing nursery in Norway and I'm going to show you some of the things that I bought. This here is a Aeonium Swashkoff. It is completely black and you can see on the stem it's pink. That's beautiful. Then we're moving on to the Adromischus, and not all of these are marked correctly, so I don't know the exact names for all of them. This one here is an Adromischus alstonii. It has thick, fleshy leaves. It has a more dense, low growth, what you would expect from an Adromischus, and with some texture to the leaves. It's just beautiful, and with a lot of new growth as well. This is an Adromischus truncatus. It's not as impressive, but it's going to be beautiful. It looks like it's either been growing from a leaf or this is a separate leaf. In it you can see the new growth is coming in a brown red color with thick, nice triangular leaves. This is a more brittle stem than what I think this one has been mismarked. It's not a Adromischus, it's probably a cotyledon. The difference between the two tends to be that the Adromischus grows low with a fleshy stem and the cotyledon grows tall with a more shrubby tree-like growth, and it has a thinner, brittler stem. Beautiful. I've been looking for this one. I collect both Adromischus and cotyledon. This one here is another one that is usually sold with both names. This one has the typical leaves that you expect to find on a cotyledon, the turtle feet, but it has a hairy, very fleshy stem, which is more typical for the Adromischus. But this one will most likely grow into a little shrubby tree. But the Adromischus and the cotyledon are extremely closely related, and the plants jump between the two categories every now and then. This here is an Adromischus choilandi, I think. I have the completely green form of this one as well. This one comes in an aubergine color. It's a dark purple. It has those fleshy, hairy stems. Now, Adromischus typically grow with some tuberous roots. They can be propagated by leaves very easily, and I just find them a bit more pleasant to repot than what cotyledon tends to be. Cotyledon can be a complete nightmare when they get a bit bigger to try and repot them, because they break and lose their leaves and everything. Adromischus is a bit more friendly that way. This is the Adromischus marianae coral green. And yes, it's supposed to look like that. These ones you can find in all sorts of varieties. They come in red. This one is obviously green. They probably have even more colors. It's a bit thirsty and it looks like it has flowered. It has a little stem poking out. All in all, absolutely beautiful and very fun to touch. This is also one of the more typical Adromischus. This is what you expect to find in the species. And these ones used to be extremely rare at some point, and now they're popping up a few places, which I'm very happy about, because look at it, it's beautiful, it's amazing. You'll love to see it. The Adromischus typically like to be watered in spring and in fall, but you should never let them shrivel up So whatever needed, they like a lot of light and sun, but they shouldn't be exposed to full sun during the heat of summer. They are also somewhat cold hardy. They can handle some negative degrees if they're kept completely dry, and they should have a resting period during the heat of summer and the dead of winter. This here is the Avonia papyracea, also known as the bird poop plant. It's a mimicry succulent that grows in the succulent karoo of South Africa. It should be watered between March and October and kept dry in winter. It has very fine roots, and so it prefers a shallow pot, and it requires a lot of sun to be able to flower. It is cold hardy, similar to most of the South African plants, and it's known to be a bit finicky and difficult to keep. Next up is the Astrophytum Superkabuto. This is another one that used to be a bit more rare before, and they're a lot of fun because they come in all sorts of different patterning. I have another one as well, so I think I'm going to plant these ones together. They're nice and firm, and I know that they are going to plump up a bit more if I give them a little sip of water. It also looks like the substrate is decent for these ones. It's not too bad. Yeah, they're just adorable. This here is a Serraria namaquensis. It's a common shrub from South Africa, which is notorious for being slow to grow and impossible to root. This one has been grafted onto a jade plant. As you can see, the jade plant is also growing. I don't want the jade plant, so I'm just going to take it off, sorry. I have several jade plants already. You can see the new shoot. It is growing somewhat. If these prefer to be kept as long as they have the right temperature, they're going to grow all year around. During the warmest part of summer, they go dormant and can drop all of their leaves, and they'll come back again when they find the weather more agreeable. As I said, this one grows really slowly, and so it's perfect for bonsai, which is what I'm going to use this one for. This is probably going to be one that I'm going to cut into the right shape. I would very much like to just cut it right here and let this remaining part grow, but seeing as this will probably not root the top of it, I don't really want to do that. That will leave the plant very small, but eventually when these ones grow out, I will probably do just that. Moving on to the Euphorbias. Here we have the Euphorbia japonica, also known as a pine cone with feathers. I thought it looked like a creature thing. You can see it has two arms and a head, and now that I'm looking at it, it kind of looks like Sid from Ice Age. Ugh. Like a little person. Then this one is a Euphorbia psedoglobosa. This is a cortex plant. It's not a cactus, it's a succulent, and you can even see sort of the stem in here, and with the right care it will grow a cortex-like root system. So it's very pretty, and it has these nice markings on the leaves, I guess you could call it. Almost stripy. This is the Euphorbia horrida F. monstruosa. Is a little monster. This one needs the right care to grow compact or else it's just going to stretch and be kind of weird. It's a bit spiny. It has a few spines on it, and it's very reminiscent of the Huernia or the monadenium, I think it is. It has some nice markings on the leaves. You can't really see it in this light, I think. It's a very pretty plant. We have some new growth at the top, I think. This is the Echeveria Opalina, and it's one of the many hybrid plants that you can find in cultivation. I fell for this one because it looks like the leaves have been chiseled. The leaves come off as very round on camera, but they have more of a jewel look. They look like they've been cut like jewels. As with all of its family, they like a lot of water and sun, and you shouldn't touch the leaves. This here is the Echeveria Campton carousel. It has a beautiful color. The camera doesn't do it any credit. It has this very muted, creamy pastel yellow color and a very fine bluish green. It looks absolutely beautiful, and this is a very Instagrammable plant. It needs a lot of light, else it's going to stretch. They both need to be somewhat dormant during winter, but never let them shrivel up too much and give them a lot of light. This here is the Huernia Sebrina variegata, and this is the Huernia pilancei. The variegated version of this comes in several colors. You can get them in yellow, as red as this one was, and somewhat more orange. And of course with varying degrees of variegation. They want a lot of water during spring and especially autumn. They need a lot of sun to be able to flower, and as soon as they're done doing that, they are starting on a resting period and need to be completely dry and kept cold until spring starts again. They can go dormant during summer, but you can basically choose at that point, and during spring you almost can't overwater them, and they seem to like more shallow pots. If you like Kalanchoe tomentosa, then you need this plant. This is the Kalanchoe villosa, and it has some extremely fussy leaves. This is the tomentosa on an extreme level, and it looks like it's going to grow very similarly. I water my tomentosa during spring and autumn, and they need a lot of light to get the right color. Moving on to the mesemps, this here is an Anacampseros. God damn it! I just had it. Anacampseros retusa filamentosa. I have one of these already in black. This is the green form. This one grows in the succulent carrousel, and it needs a bit more water. This one is thirsty. I've never seen them this big before. That's really cool, so I had to pick it up because of that. So this is what they typically look like. They grow fine little mats and just put out a lot of flowers and enjoy being a succulent. They don't have the biggest roots, and I think they would prefer a more shallow pot. They need a lot more water, and they are winter dormant as far as I know. And this is the Schwanzia, which is just about to flower. It has this beautiful cold stress color on it. This is a winter grower, so it's going into flower now, and then it's gonna stay dormant for most part of summer. It's very firm and nice, and I just love these. This here is a dianthus, and I'm already sowing these from seeds, but they're just beautiful, aren't they? Once you start falling for the mesems or the Isoaceae plants, there's no going back. I mean, you start out just looking at lithops and finding them kind of funny, and then it just evolves. I'm trying to look and see if I can find a name here, if it's called something more. It's apparently a Dinterantius puberulens, and yes, it's a summer grower, and it's about to split right now. It's been watered quite recently, which is a bit unfortunate, and it's treated pretty much like a lithops. Tylochodon bucolianus. It's a distant relative of the Adromischus and the cotyledon, where the cotyledon has brittle stems and big fleshy leaves, and the Adromischus has fleshy stems and fleshy leaves. This one has fleshy stems and oftentimes non-existent leaves. These ones drop their leaves once they go dormant or are exposed to stress. I don't know if you can propagate them by leaves, and you're left with this very cool stem structure thing. I'm interested to see the roots on this one, whether they have the thin roots of the cotyledon or the fleshy tuberous roots of the Adromischus. This here is a mammillaria plumosa. It's in flower currently. This is a plant that needs regular watering during summer and spring. But be careful to not water the spines. It looks like dandelion fluff. It's not as nice to touch, but it's not that prickly either. It's very pretty. Machucana madisoniorum. This is an endangered species in the wild. They are very often poached. They usually grow in extremely dry forests, but they cannot tolerate standing in water, and they need to be watered very lightly during summer and spring. The reason people like this plant is because it's almost iridescent. It feels like touching sandpaper. That is also what gives it that almost velvet sheen. I don't think my camera will ever be able to pick it up. It doesn't look much in pictures, but seeing this plant in real life is beautiful. It's a velvety cactus. If you have any questions about the plants, feel free to ask them, and if you have any tips about these plants, then please tell me. So thank you for following along, and hopefully I'll see you again. Bye.